Hi everyone, David West again. Today I am here to bring you some big updates in the story of Dr. Joseph Sakharine, the anti-gun trauma surgeon who over the weekend claimed that he was recently the victim of a death threat, only to have Twitter start roasting him when all the evidence pointed to the death threat being something that Sakharine staged in his own garage. First, I want to let you guys know that just like Dr. Joseph Sakharine, I myself have now been the victim of a threat placed under my windshield.
Oh, no. Oh, why would the gun control lobby do this?
More importantly, though, yesterday morning, January 27th, Dr. Joseph Sakharine deleted his tweet. And not just the tweet that had started the whole thing where he claimed that he'd received the death threat. It was actually a whole string of tweets. There was like 7 or 8 more after that, and I won't read them all to you. I'll throw them up on screen here, so you can kind of see him scrolling by, and you can pause and read them if you really want. But it was just a whole big self-aggrandizing string of tweets where he talks about how he's the child of immigrants and how great he is and his resume and all the anti-gun groups he's worked with and how they're making so much of a difference, and kind of compares himself to Martin Luther King Jr. I mean, it was ridiculous. It was insane. It was very obnoxious. And if you really want to read them, they're kind of funny. So Sakharine hasn't said anything at all about this on Twitter yet, but he has talked to the Baltimore Sun several times, and they, in an article that they have up, which has been updated a couple times now, that says, Sakharine, however, deleted this thread of tweets about the alleged incident on Monday morning. He said he did so at the advice of law enforcement, who also advised him to stop discussing the matter publicly. He declined to comment further. And then if you scroll down through this article a little bit more, there's another section that says, Virginia Capitol Police, tasked with staffing officers for the rally, said they were not aware of any threats against gun control activists. Sakharine declines to say what agency, if any, is investigating the incident. So I find that rather interesting, that he said that law enforcement told him to take it down, but then wouldn't tell them if there were any law enforcement agencies actually investigating it or if there was one that he talked to. So I strongly suspect the reason he did that is that he did not want the Baltimore Sun reporters to go digging and ask any questions to whatever agency he would have, alleged to have contacted, because they could have probably been like, oh no, he never talked to us, because I don't think this guy's talked to them, and we're going to get into all of that in just a minute here. Sakharine deleting his tweet is not the only update to the story, though. A couple days ago on Sunday, when I was actually right in the middle of working on my initial video about this Baltimore Sun article came out. And in it, there are some very interesting things. So I won't read the whole article to you, but let me read you a few key excerpts from this, and then we'll go through and break down just how all of these things make his story even less believable, and how he's really just digging a deeper hole for himself. So here are some pertinent excerpts from that article. In an interview with the Baltimore Sun, he said he believed the paper was placed on his car, parked near his parents' home in Northern Virginia, sometime on or before January 20th, which was the Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, and the same day as the gun rights rally in Richmond, the state's capital. Sakharine, 42, said he recalls grabbing what he thought was a flyer off his windshield on the morning of January 21st as he made his way into work at the U.S. Capitol, where he is serving as a Robert Wood Johnson Foundation Health Policy Fellow. Sakharine took a sabbatical from his position as Director of Emergency General Surgery at Johns Hopkins Hospital to take the fellowship. He said he took no notice of what was on the paper that morning, distracted by thoughts about his new job. But days later, as he was cleaning out his car, he took a closer look and realized what it was with a jolt, he said. I just cannot imagine putting them through anything else. He's referring to his parents there. He said, I'm not sure who did it. I'm not sure how they got my information. But as someone who takes care of gunshot patients day in and day out in Baltimore, and who has been working on the intersection of health and public safety, it's just so concerning. Sakharine said he couldn't help but wonder whether his national advocacy work had caused someone to target him. After finding the alleged threat in his car, Sakharine said he took a couple of pictures, placing it back on his windshield for one, and then threw it in the trash, ready to ignore it. On Saturday, he changed his mind. Man, after reading all of that, I have so many more questions about this thing, because, whew boy, there's a lot of problems with this. So let's go through those now. So this part here where he says, in an interview with the Baltimore Sun, he said he believed the paper was placed on his car, parked near his parents' home in Northern Virginia, sometime on or before January 20th. Okay, so if this happened at his parents' house, why did he first claim that it happened at his house? Because if you look at his original tweet, he very clearly is saying that it happened at his house. Or how about this part? Sacred, 42, said he recalls grabbing what he thought was a flyer off his windshield on the morning of January 21st as he made his way into work at the U.S. Capitol. He said he took no notice of what was on the paper that morning, distracted by thoughts about his new job. But days later, as he was cleaning out his car, he took a closer look and realized what it was with a jolt, he said. Okay, so... oh man, there's a lot of questions here. How exactly was this thing on his windshield? I mean, look at the crease in the picture. Was that under the windshield? That would be my first guess, since he's now admitted to restaging the picture. Okay, even if that part was under the windshield wiper, it should be pretty clear that there's a picture on this, and you should maybe take a look at it. But I actually don't think that he's saying that it's under the windshield, and I will show you why now. The tweet about the alleged threat said, one does not have to see the rest of the sentence that was covered up to understand the intent of this message, a death threat. Now, I think you can take that in two ways. When I first read it, the way that I took it was that he was trying to say that all the periods at the end of it were covering up something, maybe his name or whatever, so that it was actually saying, the end is soon, and then something else, maybe his name or whatever, which I already thought was weird because it was like, wait, well, that to me, if I just saw that randomly somewhere, I would think this is just someone who's really crappy at making ellipses and doesn't realize they should be limited to 3 periods. Why would you even think, oh, there's supposed to be more here unless he had made it? But I don't actually think that's what he means. I think what he means is way more damning to his case. I think that when he says that it's you don't have to be able to see the part that's covered up, what he's referring to is how if you look in the main picture of this, the one we've all been making fun of for clearly having been taken in a garage because of that reflection, you'll see that the wiper is covering everything except for the end and, of course, the giant cartoon gun. So if he's saying that, if he is saying that, oh, this part was covered, you don't need to be able to see it, that sounds like he's saying that the way that he staged the picture here is how it initially was. And now, of course, he didn't mention that it was staged in the original picture, but we'll talk about that a lot in just a minute. Okay, so if this is how the picture was under your wiper with the whole gun visible, why would you just grab this and think nothing of it? He says this is very obviously a death threat, but he also is saying that he saw it just like this visibly, this easy to see what's on it, and he didn't think anything of it. He just threw it in his car and didn't notice it until he was cleaning out his car a few days later. Then there's this doozy. After finding the alleged threat in his car, Sacred said, he took a couple of pictures, placing it back on his windshield for one, and then threw it in the trash, ready to ignore it. On Saturday, he changed his mind. Okay, so this article initially came out early Sunday morning, January 26th. At that point, Sacred's tweet had been up for a long time, the better part of a day for sure. So he was presumably interviewed by the Baltimore Sun Times maybe the previous evening or late afternoon, maybe several hours after his tweet had been up. That means that between the time he was interviewed by the Baltimore Sun and when he had initially made the tweet, he had several hours to realize that everyone on Twitter was roasting him. They were dragging him for how the pictures look a lot like in the one on the windshield. It is more crumpled than the one on his hand, which made it look like the one in his hand was obviously taken after the one on the windshield. And then even more damning, the one on the windshield clearly has that reflection of a attic access space. And we know that Joseph Saccharin was following what was going on Twitter because he was retweeting everyone that was supporting him. And he was commenting thank you to a lot of the people that were supporting him. There's no way that in doing so, he did not see all of the comments that were just thrashing him. So since he had every reason to know that Twitter was dragging him for this and was on to his, what I believe to be a hoax, that means that he would have had time to, when the Baltimore Sun contacted him and talked to him, he would have had time to come up with a story that maybe would make a little bit more sense. as you can see, he had to admit that the picture was staged. And in that case, I want to know, why was there zero indication that this was staged in the initial post? Why did he only mention that it was staged hours after he was being mocked online? Because to me, that just looks like he changed his story to try to fit with the details. And I mean, honestly, why would he even need to restage the story? If he had already removed it before he took a picture, why couldn't he just say, I found this under my windshield? We all know what that looks like. There would have been no way to really prove him wrong if he hadn't. The fact that he's giving so many more details really is just digging him a deeper and deeper hole. Even crazier than that is that he threw it away. I mean, how convenient is it that, oh, he threw it away and only now is he going to law enforcement? Right. Yeah, you only decided to go to law enforcement after throwing away all the evidence. Sure. Let's break this down here. So we are supposed to believe, according to the story that he's laid out, he thinks this is a very clear and obvious death threat. Whoever put it there seems to know where his parents live, what Saccharin's car looks like, and when he was going to be there. And on top of that, we're supposed to believe that Saccharin didn't take all of it seriously enough to go to the police in the first place, let alone keep the evidence he could have actually given to them. Guys, if everything that he's saying were true, this would be a fairly serious threat that should be investigated. A normal person would have gone to the police right away, and they would have definitely kept the evidence, since that's really all there is to go on. It really is funny to me how, in talking to this newspaper and telling them all these things, he's poked so many more holes in his story. Because if he had just come back the next day and said, oh, guys, sorry, I restaged that tweet. Sorry, I wasn't clear about that. Yeah, I did it in my garage afterwards because I was too scared the first time. I'd removed it too quickly and got out of there. If he just said something like that, there wouldn't really be anything that we could do. I mean, we could still be skeptical. We could still point out all the other inconsistencies, but he's literally giving us more to work with here. If he had just said that, I can't disprove any of that, but I can make a pretty compelling case from his own words that he's contradicting himself. Now, there is one more aspect to the story that I want to bring up here. It's not the most important part, but it is something I want to touch on real quick. And that is that the Baltimore Sun article, which had initially come out Sunday morning, has since been updated. It was updated yesterday, not too long after he deleted his tweets, to reflect that he had deleted his tweets. These were the changes that were made to the article. Saccharin, however, deleted his thread of tweets about the alleged incident on Monday morning. He said he did so at the advice of law enforcement, who also advised him to stop discussing the matter publicly. He declined to comment further. Virginia Capitol Police, tasked with staffing officers for the rally, said they were not aware of any threats against gun control activists. Saccharin declined to say what agency, if any, is investigating the incident. So the reason that I wanted to bring up this update to the article is that there is some evidence out there that there was actually another version of the article first. So there's this guy on Twitter, Greenstein Training Solutions, who seems to do firearms and gun related, like security training. And he tweeted to me at one point. He said, David, Baltimore Sun article appears to be updated. And then he puts in the quote about Saccharin restaging it. And then after that, he said, David, it's amazing that the response update perfectly frames the observations raised. Wondering why Baltimore Sun article doesn't mention the update, which was probably sought as a response to the user observations. This guy is adamant that the article was updated. He's posted about it all over the place. I commented back and forth with him a little bit more, and he really seems to think it was updated. He said, maybe I missed it, but I really doubt I would miss something that big in this article. So I tried to verify his claims via archive.org and Google Cache, and when I tried to, I wasn't able to find an unupdated version of that article at the time. However, once I realized that the article was indeed updated to include the information about Saccharin deleting his tweet, I started looking into this guy's claim again. And, at that point, I knew it had been updated. And then I did have a Google Cache version of that previous version of the article to show that, yes, that update had happened. And that update's even noted on the page. So once it was clear that the article was indeed being updated, that lended some validity to this guy's story. And I decided to dig a little bit deeper, because if the article was in fact updated to include Saccharin's explanation about having staged the photo, that would mean that he had then had even more time to react to what was going on Twitter and sort of course correct his story to try to make it make some sense. So since I wasn't able to use Google Cache or archive.org to either verify or debunk Greenstein's claims, I decided to reach out to the author's article, Kevin Rector. I found his number very easily. It's right on the Baltimore Sun's contact page, along with every other reporter that works for them. And I gave him a call. And here's the audio of that call.
Tom, this is Kevin.
Hi, this is Kevin Rector from the Baltimore Sun.
Yes.
Hey, Kevin, my name is David West. I am doing some research on the surgeon that you wrote an article about the other day, Joseph Sakharine. I just had a couple questions about your article, if you have a minute.
Okay. I mean, you can read what's in the article. That's what I say about it.
Right. Well, I did. What I wanted to ask about was that I noticed the article was updated this morning to add some new information to it. And I'd been told by some people that that was the second update to it, that they believe there was a first version of the article. I just wanted to know if you would be able to confirm that.
No, I don't think so. Whatever it says on the website is what you're going to have to go with.
So there has.
Thanks for the call, though.
Oh, so you don't think there's.
When it cuts off at the end there, that's because as soon as he said thanks for the call, he just hung up on me and my recording stopped. I don't really know what his motivation for hanging up on me was, but the article has been updated at least once. I mean, we know that. It says at the bottom, this report has been updated to reflect that Sakharine has since deleted his tweets regarding this alleged incident. Baltimore Sun reporter McKenna Oxenden contributed to this report. To be fair, I thought the article was fairly straightforward and unsensational and even maybe a touch skeptical of Sakharine in places, and it does sound like the update may have been made by a different reporter, this McKenna Oxenden, who I tried to call a couple times and wasn't ever able to get through to. So I still don't know if there was an earlier version of this article, but I think it's worth mentioning. I think there is some decent reason to believe that there may well have been. And like I said, if there was that earlier article, that means that Sakharine had a lot more time and even knew there was an article out before he had to change his story to match what people on Twitter were calling him out for. Anyway, now that he has deleted his tweets, I want to encourage you guys to keep watching him and keep an eye on him. He hasn't tweeted at all since he made a Kobe tribute on Sunday morning, which was about 2 days ago now. And he seems like he's usually a pretty prolific tweeter, so I think he's kind of hunkered down and is scared and like, oh crap, they're on to me. But we'll see. We'll see if he says anything else. So just keep an eye on him. Keep hammering him anytime he posts something, because we want the truth to come out. And even if we never get that like absolute confirmation where he admits that he did this, the evidence is so strong at this point. We need to just be spreading this, and we need to be discrediting this guy and making sure that the anti-gun movement doesn't take him seriously. Because right now there are clearly still a lot of anti-gun folks who believe him. Like, look at this guy, Dr. Richard Falcone. He initially tweeted, "We all stand with Joseph Sakharine," and a bunch of anti-gun hashtags and stuff. As it went on, he actually responded to a few of us who were criticizing Sakharine and calling him out. "I know Joseph Sakharine, and he has much more important things to do than stage something so horrible. There are children and family members who die each day from firearms. There is no need for hashtag fake news when the real news is so horrible." And then I'll put this in here. This is just kind of funny. This guy, he retweeted a parody Trump account, a pretty blatant parody Trump account. He wrote, "How exactly would a Muslim ban or a wall between Mexico and the U.S. stop a virus from China?" And then I guess people pointed out to him that it was a parody account. And he wrote, "Well, thank goodness this is actually a parody account, but so hard to recognize parody from what would really be said these days. Was reading his actual posts, and they all seem like a parody." So this guy clearly isn't looking that closely at information. I mean, you can see right here on the screen grab, it says parody at Real Donald TR fan. I mean, it does not say a lot for you and your ability to be discerning that you would fall for a satirical parody tweet like this. As we continued trying to point out to this guy that his friend Joseph Saccharin was clearly lying, he said, "No sense trying to communicate to hypocrites on Twitter who won't use their names for fear of harassment, but have no trouble harassing others behind a veil." And then, again, even after all of that, he said, "I am Dr. Richard Falcone, a pediatric surgeon at Petty Trauma Society and an injury prevention advocate for my patients and families. Over the years, like you, I've been called names and received threats from those who oppose my work. But I am here and stand with you." Rich Falcone is not the only doctor who's being completely retarded about this whole issue, though. These are some responses from a single thread of tweets that are all in response to one Mary L. Brandt, MD. She wrote, "I know this will probably explode into a flurry of attack responses, but I have to stand up for my friend at Joseph Saccharin. I'm so struck by how mean the responses to his post have been, by people who don't know him or the facts. Even if we totally disagree, why can't we be kind?" Well, Dr. Brandt, I would remind you that you actually don't know the facts here either. You know them no more than we do. And why would we be kind to someone if they were doing a hoax like this? And not just a hoax for their own attention, but a hoax to limit our rights. She went on to say, "I would encourage everyone to look at who is attacking Joseph Saccharin and those of us supporting him. Anonymous, few followers, accounts with no tweets, just retweets on lots of issues to make us get into fights with each other equals nefarious, equals report them." And then Rich Falcone himself responded to this, and he said, "Well stated. And I find it quite interesting that those of us who know Joseph Saccharin and have seen what bullets do to people are willing to share our names. But those who criticize and create fake narratives hide behind fake names for the most part, or post videos with weapons." I'll give you one guess as to who he's talking about in that last part. He's saying that because I responded to him earlier and I said, "I'm not hiding behind a fake name. I'm as out in the open as it can get online." And so now he's discrediting me because I posted videos with weapons, as if this is some kind of threat, even though this is a pre-existing studio that I built months before this moron Joseph Saccharin ever tried to pull this hoax. Then we have another doctor at Disanaki, MD, agreed, wasn't expecting the level of ridiculousness that ensued. Veritable troll-feeding frenzy. And then J.D. Hughes, MD, responds, "He is the target of professional trolls. This is what the NRA does." I'm putting these tweets in this video because I think they're really funny, and it's a really common thing that you see with people on the left where they will look at someone's credentials and just think, "Oh, this person's a doctor. They must be really, really smart." And obviously doctors are studious to get to the point that they are at. They have to go through a lot of schooling, and they are certainly knowledgeable in very specific areas. But that doesn't make them that smart. It doesn't mean they're particularly amazing at critical thinking. It doesn't mean they're particularly good at analyzing evidence. It doesn't mean they're good at setting aside their political biases. And it doesn't mean they're an expert in every field. This idea that doctors and scientists and all these other, people with credentials that the left loves so much are experts that we should be listening to in fields that have nothing to do with their particular areas of study and expertise is one of the dumbest things I've ever seen. I mean, these doctors are literally here promoting conspiracy theories as bonkers as anything you would see on Alex Jones. The idea that everyone that disagrees with you on Twitter is a Russian bot or a paid troll is just the left's version of George Soros funds every leftist at a protest. It's really stupid. They think that most of us who are criticizing this guy are professional trolls paid by the NRA. Look, I probably have a lot more chance of getting paid by the NRA than any of these random anonymous accounts do, given that I'm an actual filmmaker who actually makes gun rights related content, and I'm not paid by the NRA. Honestly, I wouldn't mind being paid by the NRA, but I'm not. I wish I was, trust me. Guys, the fact that there are still people out there that believe that this incident happened and still believe that Dr. Saccharin is credible, that just means that we need to keep getting the story out there. Please share it, spread the truth far and wide. Let's not let this guy get away with this. People cannot trample on our rights, let alone do so by lying and self-aggrandizing and turning themselves into victims. Let's make sure that everyone he's associated with knows. Let's make sure all his doctor friends who are supporting him know that they were being conned. Let's make sure that the public knows that this man is exploiting his standing in society as a doctor to take away rights from people and to further his own political agenda. Let's make sure that John Hopkins, where this guy works, knows. Let's make sure that the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation, where he is currently working and fellowshipping, let's make sure that they know. And don't think this is some petty cancel culture thing. We're not trying to get this guy, in trouble for having an unpopular opinion. We are trying to get him to face repercussions for the fact that he lied and that he perpetrated a scam meant to exploit people's emotions. And given what he did, unless he's reported this to the police, I don't think there's any kind of legal actions that he could face. And frankly, there probably shouldn't be. I don't think it should be illegal for people to lie. But we can take him on in the court of public opinion. And in the court of public opinion, he needs to be crucified. This guy needs to never have any credibility. People need to know that this man is not some kind of expert on the issue of gun rights and that he is in fact a liar who should not be taken seriously and should not be testifying before Congress about why our rights should be abridged. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching this video. Please share it. Please keep spreading the word and do not let up on this guy. And just in the off chance that Dr. Joseph Sakharin actually watches this video himself, Dr. Sakharin, I just want you to know that we are not going to let you get away with this. We are not going to let you lie, and we are not going to let you take our gun rights.